We now return to the Edge Media interview in which Brian Gerrish said something really daft. Here it is.
But what we are finding is that where common purpose is operating, never mind what common purpose says, we're finding people who say since common purpose has been operating, things seem to be breaking down.
So do you think that's why they were trying to stop you having this effort to help young people by building
Absolutely,
this ship?
because what is actually happening in this country is it's being taken apart. I use an expression which is, why does nothing work anymore? If you look out the window and you look at what's happening in society, nothing works. Schools, hospitals, transport, police. You must have seen it. Haven't you seen it?
No, Brian, he has not seen anything of the kind, and neither have you. If you look around you, it is obvious that nearly everything is working. Now, Brian Gerrish is someone who travels around the country, mostly by car. He gets into his car in Plymouth, which is a nice, well-kept town where everything works, and he then drives onto the motorway so that he can get to places such as Stoke-on-Trent and Liverpool. The motorways have not fallen apart, because if they had, he would not be able to do this. On his journeys, he stops at petrol stations for petrol and at cafes to get meals, so they have not fallen apart. When he reaches his destination, he gets off the motorway and drives into town, where the traffic lights are working, the street lights are working, the shops are open for business, and the children go to school. People use public transport to get to work and to travel to conferences where Brian Gerrish gives his talks. So obviously the transport systems are all working. Stop talking nonsense, Brian. It is quite obvious that most of the time everything works. We now return to the meeting organised by the Campaign for an Independent Britain. Brian Gerrish says something else which is completely daft.
Now, I was in the car the other day with a guy who's done a lot of good work for us, and we're driving along, and he said to me, Brian, what do you think these people are playing at? What are they doing? Are they playing politics? Are they out for personal gain? And I said, just run that by me again, and he repeated it. He didn't know what they were, what are they doing? And I said, they're going to kill you. These people are not playing a game. What do they want to do to you? They want to destroy you completely.
So how many people have they killed so far, Brian? What is the body count? Can you let us all know so that we can start arranging the funerals? Now the chairman, Roger Helmer, asks a sensible question, but he does not get a very sensible reply.
I devote the rest of the time available to us to questions and debate. And can I abuse my position as chairman by asking a question, if you will allow me? The question I would ask, Brian, is this. Imagine we had somebody here from Common Purpose, and let me play devil's advocate for a moment. I think what I would be saying is something along the lines of, look, we're interested in improving life in Britain by improving leadership skills. That's what we're about. So, of course, we go to organisations which are influential, we try and deliver these courses, we go to schools because we want to encourage leadership skills and we want these young people to grow up and take leading positions in our society. We have a series of programmes we think that make people much more effective leaders. So we're a bit like the industrial society, which does industrial training, but we focus particularly on leadership. And there are other, both commercial and, I believe, charity organisations that do similar things. Common Purpose just happens to be a big one and a successful one. And then you say, well, okay, you're teaching people about the European Union. This is propaganda. And they will say, well, we're teaching people how decisions are made that affect their lives, and whether you like it or not, a great many decisions are made in Brussels, just as a great many decisions are made in Westminster. Therefore, if we're teaching people about how decisions are made in society, of course we're going to teach them about how the European Union works, and we're going to take them to the Parliament. We are just a training organisation. And of course we have links with other think tanks who work on areas like this. Of course, because we're successful, we get into large companies, we get companies supporting us, and we work to an extent with the government because they've seen the benefit of the wonderful training that we deliver. Now, if they were to say that to you, how would you respond?
Well, I'd say that is a wonderful description of common purpose, but there are some points at the moment which don't seem to tie up. The first one is that if you're a charity, it's very reasonable that you do your work in an open way where we can see where your money is coming from and how you're using that money. You are, after all, a charity. And the overwhelming proof and evidence at the moment is that you're exceedingly secretive about where your money is coming from and how that money is used. On top of that, I'd like you to explain why it is that when we ask a city council, such as Plymouth City Council, how much you've spent on common purpose, instead of saying, we are delighted to tell the public that we have spent £200,000 and we think it's excellent value, they don't want to tell us how much they've spent. Now that's rather odd, isn't it? Because you run a wonderful charity, but nobody wants to tell us how much they've spent.
Local authorities, like many other large institutions, usually provide training for their employees. However, their training budgets are minuscule compared to the budgets allocated for other things. They will not tell Brian Gerrish how much they spend on training or who provides it because it's none of his business. Earlier in this talk, Brian Gerrish told the audience that he was in business, he was well known in the community, and he was a member of the local Chamber of Commerce. But this is what he says now.
I was given a course at work a couple of weeks ago. A little chit appeared on my desk and it said I was going to a reframing course. I thought, well, that's very interesting. I'm going to be reframed.
So he did have an employer, and his employer wanted to send him on a course. Who was he working for? Himself, in his own business, or someone else? The truth is the truth. It does not change. But when Brian Gerrish tells us things, they change nearly every time he tells them. Obviously, he is making it all up as he goes along.